Abruscato. I'm the photo editor here at District and I write the column I'm Booked, and today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read this summer. So I read 10 books this summer and obviously I have to rank them 1 through 10. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, and I'm honestly a little bit afraid that it might be a teensy bit controversial because my books that are at the bottom of my list are some of the more popular books that I read. So please don't come at me. Let's just get into it. I'm gonna go 10 to 1, starting with my least favorite to my most favorite. And disclaimer, I liked all of these books. I had a good time. There were none that I stopped reading or hated so much that it was really hard to get through. But some I just liked more than others, you know? And oh god, I'm afraid to start because the first one is fairly popular. Okay, this is number 10. It's Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I apologize. I know this is a well-liked book. A quick synopsis of Book Lovers. The main girl, Nora Stevens, she's super obsessed with her job, and her sister's like, you need a break, and her sister's pregnant, by the way, and is like, let's go to a small town and have fun. And she's like, no, I love my job. Well, no, she goes. She doesn't really put up a fight, but you know, she's struggling with it internally. And then this guy, Charlie something, Lastra? Yeah, Charlie Lastra is there, and they had met in New York and they didn't like each other, but of course they basically fall in love immediately. That's not a spoiler because obviously that's pretty obvious, so, but I won't tell you the rest of the things that happen. Oh, the things that I liked about this book, it was interesting, kept me engaged. It was, you know, pretty easy to read. I was never I don't really want to. I think it's more of just a personal preference thing. I'm not a big romance gal. I read Beach Read earlier this year, and I'm gonna be honest, it's hard to differentiate these two books because it's a romance, and these two people, they don't like each other. No, they do, immediately. They immediately like each other, and then the girl who's the main character is like, but I can't for some reason, and then the guy's I don't know, totally fine, and a little bit emotionally unavailable, but it's really not that big a deal. And also someone's dead, from the beginning. It's not a spoiler, someone's dead, and they're dealing with that. So both of them are the same in my mind, and it's just a little bit too formulaic for me personally. But I enjoyed myself. It wasn't awful. Is that mean? I'm sorry. It was good. But number 10. Okay, this next one too, I don't know how, this book is a little bit older than, obviously this book's totally new. This book is a little bit older. It's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Stieg? Is that how you say it? Stieg Larsson? So I know this book, according to my Goodreads, was the most shelved book that I've read this year. So that's why I'm sorry, it's number 9. It's number 9. And I was kind of upset about it, to be honest, because I expected to like this book. I love mysteries and thrillers and anything with a good twist, but this book did not really do it for me. This one, the names are a little bit tough for me personally because it's originally Swedish. So the main guy, his name, I watched the movie too and I was like, none of this is pronounced how I thought it was, so I'm still gonna mess it up. Mikael? I was saying Michael in my head. I think it's Mikael Blunkvist? I don't know, I'm sorry. But he, gets in trouble because he did something, he committed libel or something. He's a journalist. That whole first part was very confusing to me. But anyway, and then this other guy, I don't know, but his last name is Banger. He is old and he's I don't even know how they're related. There's so many family members in this family, it's kind of confusing and hard to keep track of. Harriet Vanger went missing many years ago, and they still don't know what happened to her, and the whole family's kind of suspicious, so he hires him to come and look and find out what happened 40 years later. That's basically, oh, and also the girl, who's the girl with the dragon tattoo? She, helps him, I guess. That really doesn't happen until like halfway through the book, so I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but if you haven't read this book or seen the movie and you're thinking about it, but you get not necessarily scared easily, but like just freaked out or hate gore or like really like explicit stuff, like don't read it, don't watch it. You will be scarred. And I think that I totally understand having like certain scarier elements to make things more dramatic and I guess more realistic, but I think that this book just did it for the sake of doing it, and it made me honestly uncomfortable, and it was like difficult to read some of it. But even despite that, I liked the twist and I was engaged like halfway through, but the first half was not doing it for me either because it was like a bunch of business stuff and it was a lot of like talking about things that I was confused. I was honestly confused, like what does this have to do with the girl with a dragon tattoo? It just did not do it for me. I'm sorry. Probably my last one that's controversial. And I feel kind of bad about this one too because I love John Green so much, but this is 10-9. This is number 8. This is number 8. Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I love John Green, and I do not dislike this book. I'm not saying that. I think I've read like all of John Green's books. Like I love John Green, and like I listen to his podcast. I love Crash Course. I'm a fan of John Green. Please do not see this and be like, wow, what a hater. No, John Green, I love you so. But this book was not my fave of the summer. So I guess there's like a little bit of a mystery in this. Like this like mega rich dude goes missing and there's a reward if you find him because he's in trouble for something. But his son, like the main character, Asa, I think that's how you say it, she knew him from like camp like a billion years ago. So they like pull up and at first they're just in it for the money, but then they fall in love, etc, etc. Actually, the more interesting part is the way like it describes her thoughts, and I'm pretty sure she has OCD and anxiety, so that's sort of like constantly a factor in the way that she's thinking about things. I enjoyed the character and how it was written, and I think like the look inside someone's mind is very interesting, and I love stuff like that that just teaches you how other people think. But the plot itself wasn't super interesting to me, and like there was like a little bit of a romance and like kind of a spoiler, I guess. The guy just like was like immediately like, yes, I'm in love with you, and I'm pretty sure that happens in every single John Green book. You don't have to work for any relationship. Like it's like immediately like, I'm in love with you, the end. And you know, maybe it's just idyllic and I'm a hater, but it wasn't my fave. I'm so sorry. But otherwise, it was still good though. I would still recommend it. Yeah. I already talked about this book. If you've read my book reviews from this summer, 2 Nights in Lisbon by Chris Pavone. I already talked about this book, so I'll just talk about a little briefly. The reason why it's, I guess, 10, 9, 8, 7, a little bit lower on the list. I talked about it in my review. I think it's a little bit longer than it needs to be, but you kind of really know what's going on, and it's just a little bit much. But I enjoyed it, and you know, I'm Portuguese, so I appreciated that. This couple goes to Portugal. The guy's on a business trip and the wife's just like there, I guess. And she wakes up one morning and the husband is gone and she's like looking for him. Pretty good. Okay, next I have Mother Ocean, Father Nation by Nishant Bhat Shah. I really am probably butchering all these names, but this one was pretty good. It was kind of sad. I got into a little bit of a point where I was like, oh my god, all the books that I'm reading are like too sad and intense. The cover makes you think it's gonna be like a fun, like summer cool. No, it's sad. But it was interesting and I did enjoy it. This one is a little bit harder to describe, but it takes place on a small Pacific island from the points of view of a brother and a sister, and they're both just like going through their own stuff, but some crazy stuff starts happening politically and it's like sort of dangerous to be there and they're getting discriminated against. And the sister moves to America and a lot of stuff happens. It's sad. She has to leave her home, but her brother stays behind and is still going through it, so it's good but sad. Yeah. Overall, my review of this book, I did enjoy it, but it was, I mean, you can't really hate on a book just for being sad. Some of my favorite books are sad, but at what cost? You know, like, did I get enough out of it? No, it wasn't as interesting to me personally. Yeah. Okay, this book I already also reviewed, Bewilderment by Richard Powers. It's part of Oprah's book club, so it's number 5. It's right in the middle there. Thank you, Oprah. Again, I said a lot more about it in my official review, but this was good. This was also sad. Oh my gosh. So it's about a father and a son, and the son lost his mother like a few years ago, I think, and they're both just like struggling to deal with that, as well as the son's like learning issues, and it is sad. But they go camping. That's fun for a little bit. Okay, another extremely sad book, The Glass Castle. I'm sure people have heard Jeanette Walls. You probably know. I hadn't heard of it until this summer, but since I read it, I'm seeing more of it around. This book is sad. It's an autobiography from Jeanette. I think like they call her Jean or something in the book. And it's talking all about her family and growing up, and they moved a lot and were homeless at different points of time, or just had lots of issues with money, because it seems like honestly the parents were just making bad decisions, but as kids they were in love with the adventure of it all, and as they grew up they sort of distanced themselves because they realized that it was unhealthy and very intense, but very good. If you read Educated by Tara Westover, I read that I guess like COVID summer 2020, and that was really intense, and it was sort of, they were sort of similar to me because it's sort of a girl autobiography talking about her childhood and how her family is kind of complicated and how it impacts them in their life. So yeah, it was good, but I worry about your heart. I wish I could say this book was much happier. I wish I could say any of these books are really that happy, but I guess book lovers, and that's my number 10. So coming out at number 3, we're in the top 3, yay! Immediate Family by Ashley Nelson Levy. I talked about this already too. I won't say too much, but this is basically from the point of view of a sister to her younger brother who's adopted, and it talks about the complexities of adoption. It's easy to think about like how that impacts a whole family and you growing up and everything, and there's some great quotes in here. The writing is spectacular. It is kind of sad because the nature of it, and she just has a complicated relationship with her brother because he starts doing some things I won't talk about because spoilers, but it's very good. I highly recommend. But yeah, it's sad. Is my number 2 book happy? I just actually finished this one last night. It is What You Can See From Here by Mariana Leckie, I believe. And this book was good. I was reading it and I was like, do I like this? Do I like how it's written? Because it sort of reminds me of like something you'd read in English class where you would have to like dissect it because it's not written like... But it's written a little bit confusingly, but I enjoyed it. I decided that I liked it. And I cried. I did cry reading this book. I think I might have cried at a few other, I cried at Bewilderment for sure. Probably at Immediate Family and Glass Castle too. These are sad books. So Louisa, growing up, and her family's complicated too. She's basically raised by her grandmother, Selma, because her father just is constantly traveling and he's definitely got his own stuff going on, and her mother is just like always talking about if she should leave her father, and it's complicated a little bit, the whole family dynamic, but it's honestly really heartwarming in a lot of areas because her grandmother is so sweet and she's sort of raised by the whole community. So this like set of main characters sort of drives the whole story, and she's constantly talking about them, even if she doesn't give the names, like she just describes them sort of as a child would even as she gets older. And the way that it's written is very interesting. I did enjoy it and I just fell in love with the characters, so I highly recommend. My number 1 book of the summer, drumroll please, is Fellowship Point by Alice Elliott Dark. Oh my god, this book. This book might be one of my favorite books of all time. That's what I'm gonna say. As you can see, I got Little Women right here. I'm wearing my Little Women shirt. That is my favorite book of all time. This reminded me of Little Women, to put it in a weird way, I guess, Little Women with old people. So it's hard to describe this one too because it lasts a long time because it goes back and forth in timelines between the past and the present. So I feel like you get so much information which allows you to get so connected to the characters, which just... Let me just read the end of this, which made me want to read it, which says, Fellowship Point reads like a classic 19th century novel in its beautifully woven, multi-layered narrative, but it is entirely contemporary in the themes it explores: a deep and empathetic interest in women's lives, the repercussions of class, the struggle to protect the natural world, and reckoning with intimacy, history, and posterity. This book was so good. I cried hard at the end of this book. Oh my god, the last line, I won't say anything, but please read this book. I feel like my favorite type of book is when you're really invested in the characters and you really get an insight to how different people think and sort of how relationships work and how everyone interacts with one another, because it feels so real, and I feel like that helps you too to understand reality and how other people, like how people interact with each other in real life. And that's what Little Women is basically. So, and that's more about family. This one's more about friendships, but friendships that are so close that feels like family. This point of view is a lot, but I feel like the main character is this like 80-something-year-old woman, Agnes Lee. She's an author and she lives for most of the time at Fellowship Point, which is in Maine. So the setting is so gorgeous. I want to live here. It sounds so nice the way they describe it. They're really connected to the land that they live on. It's beautiful. She just talks about her, I mean, I don't know how to, I feel like this, what I read here, explained it well, because it just spans so much. Like, how do you describe Little Women? Like, some sisters growing up, and it doesn't sound interesting, but the way that it's written and the stories that come out of it are so interesting. So please read this book. It is so good. These are all the books I read this summer. I highly recommend. Read any of them, honestly, and I will be pleased. Let's talk about it. So if you read any of these books, please let me know. You can email me at photo@skydistrict.com because I'd love to start a dialogue. If you have different thoughts, let me know. I'm sorry if this was controversial. If you're mad, if Book Lovers is your favorite book of all time, I apologize. Everyone just likes different things. It's no big deal. But these were my 10 books from the summer, ranked 1 to 10. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time with another book review. Check it out, Sky District. But until then, I'm booked.